Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Monday's special uh, rendition of Speak Your Mind with Larry Cox. Tonight, we've got an election eve show so that we can do one last candidate forum so that you guys can have one more opportunity to hear one last candidate before you go to the polls tomorrow to make your decisions on election day. I know in Rockdale County, a lot of you have voted, but we have got like 20% turnout so far. So that actually means 80% of you haven't voted. So let's see what happens with that. So without any further ado, I am going to bring on tonight's guest, Judge Clarence Cuthbert. Hey, Judge. Judge, your sound, you're muted.
All
There you
right. Good
go.
evening, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing good. You turned your voice off. That's good. We got it back on. I
Yes,
was mentioning, Judge, even though we do have 20% turnout, there's still 80% who haven't voted.
that is
So there's a
correct.
lot of people who have not voted out there that could still decide that they want to vote tomorrow. So I think that's why it's important that we have shows like this tonight, so that voters can get that last opportunity to hear their candidates talk. How are you doing tonight, Judge, and how are you feeling uh, this night before election?
I'm doing great, Larry. I am, doing what I need to do to keep my campaign train rolling. I feel good about what I'm hearing in the community. I feel good about what we've done as a team in regards to this campaign, and so I'm just waiting on tomorrow.
And that's all we can do is wait on that election day. I remember 2 years ago when I was same boat, waiting for tomorrow, right? And then it was like it can be nerve wracking
Yes,
doing that. Here we are. We're here. We're ready for it, and as we get nervous about it, we're also ready for it to end.
yeah, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
it's something that needs to come to an end, and we say, all right, let this thing end, and tomorrow is decision day for the voters. So, Judge, I think tonight you had mentioned to me one of the things you wanted to discuss tonight was the timing of the rollout of the Veterans Court. Would that be correct?
That's correct, Larry. I believe I mentioned on the last show that somewhere around 2022, 2023, I attempted to establish a veterans court, and actually, there was no data to determine whether or not a veterans court was needed. There was none from probate. There was none from the uh, the court system itself, probation that is, or the court system itself. And so I did my own research and came up with actually the fact that there was about 6,200 veterans in our area, and I attempted to establish a veterans court at that time. I did not receive any support with that. As a matter of fact, I was told that there was not a need for a veterans court in Rockdale County. And so I found the timing very interesting that all of a sudden during an election year, there's a need for a veterans court all of a sudden. We have the same veterans that were here when I attempted to establish it, and probably more at this point. But the needs of the veterans were established during that time through town hall meetings that I held here in Rockdale and invited our veterans to come out, discuss issues that were of importance to them, and brought individuals from the Department of Veteran Services out to meet with these veterans to talk with them about their issues, to at least provide them with an avenue to address their issues. And so while I'm very happy that the veterans will receive the services that they deserve, they so well deserve, given their service to our country, I do find the timing very interesting.
So, you do you believe it could actually be politically motivated?
Absolutely, yes.
Interesting. So, I mean, and I do think we have to watch that because if I wasn't mistaken, wasn't there a press release the other day regarding this?
That is correct.
And
Yes,
are you questioning the timing of the press release also?
I most certainly am. Yes.
So, and that's where I wanted to, to go with this. I mean, if we're gonna call it out, we might as well just call it out, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, so,
Absolutely.
so that's interesting. And then you also wanted to discuss ADR.
Yes, alternative dispute resolution. As most people know, I served on the Commission on Dispute Resolution, and we actually move around the state, speaking with different court systems and encouraging them to establish an ADR office. Mediation and arbitration can reduce the cost of litigation in cases. It can also help to prevent backlogs in the court dockets and calendars because many cases can be resolved through alternative dispute resolutions, and that will avoid the court having to hold trials and hearings in regards to these matters. When I addressed that issue, being a part of that Commission on Dispute Resolution, many of the members were questioning me as to why Rockdale did not have an ADR office or was not willing to establish an ADR office. Could not get support from that from any of our chief judges or any of the other judges to support that. And so, again, we were one of the few counties in Georgia that did not have an ADR office. Now, in an election year, an ADR office is being pushed and promoted. And so, again, I find the timing very interesting.
Judge, I remember you telling. I remember talking to you way back in 2016, and one of the things you talked about was the mediation, right? And I think, aren't you? I think you told me you were a certified mediator, or what is that? Make sure I got the understanding of what credentials you hold with that.
Yes, I have been a certified mediator through the Georgia Office of Dispute Resolution since 2006. And even now, I currently serve as a mediator in the private sector, in addition to my PROHAC responsibilities in state and probate court, as well as a municipal court judge. So I firmly believe in alternative dispute resolutions. Again, I believe that they can be less expensive in regards to resolving the cases for the parties. The parties have, in my opinion, more of a say in the resolution of the case because they have an opportunity to come to a compromise. And when they realize that neither party is going to get 100% of what they want, but it's a lot less expensive process. And again, it prevents the court case calendar from being backed up with cases that could be resolved otherwise.
I know in a lot of our contracts, Judge, we'll have these, the dispute mediation clauses, right? And I think, we don't mind those. I think the only thing that we strike in it is location,
Yes.
because the large contractors will always try to have the mediation happen in their home court.
Yes.
So that's the only thing that we always strike and have it put in there that a neutral location for the mediation.
Yes.
If that would come to that, right? So, and we never get any pushback at that. Leave the mediation in, strike, home court advantage, and put in there that a mutual mediation site to be determined or something, right?
Yes.
So, but yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, do you guys have any numbers on what you guys think that might save the taxpayers and court systems by not having a lot of these things go through the courts and then just being settled in mediation rather than lengthy trials and such?
I don't have any numbers in regards to Rockdale County because I said the county was never receptive to establishing that ADR office. But as we look nationally as well as statewide, there's a significant savings from within the counties because you're not paying jurors, you're not having public defenders or other legal aid attorneys or what have you tied up with, again, trials that can be resolved without a trial or a hearing. And so I think that there would be a significant savings to the county if we did have an ADR office. And in most cases, while there is a cost to the county, the parties are required to pay a certain fee to participate in the mediation anyway. And so a lot of that cost would be absorbed by the parties themselves.
Right. And I do want to make sure that people understand too, you actually are in favor of accountability torts because you tried to push the Veterans Court. Your concern is just the timing of the court, with this being an election year. And then also last night we talked about accountability courts when Justin Kenney was on the show last night, and a lot of the folks in the chat last night, their primary concern was who was eligible for accountability courts. And you and I talked about this a little bit before the show, and we talked about accountability courts, and you even went through and read to me some of the standards upon setting these courts up, and it's stated in their nonviolent offenders, and I think that's what people are concerned about. They're concerned about defendants using this as an advantage to get out of criminal offenses. So would you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, did you like to say that, violent offenders, in my opinion, should not even be considered for an accountability court, even though their criminal act may be related to drugs or alcohol, or for some other substance. The fact that their act is violent, as I said on the previous show, we have to consider the victims. We have to consider the society and the community that we live in. And if we're letting violent offenders go through a accountability court rather than a more strict environment, to me, that is putting the safety of the victim of that violent offense as well as the community at risk. And that's not something that we want to do. Now, if an individual is incarcerated for a violent offense and there are some rehabilitation programs that he or she can go through while they are incarcerated, absolutely, because we don't want them to be incarcerated and then come back out into our society with the same actions or the same attitudes that they went in. When they come out, we want them to have a change of heart or a change of mind. And so I'm absolutely in favor of rehabilitation for an individual who committed a violent offense while they are incarcerated in the system. But I don't believe that accountability courts are the proper avenue to address those individuals.
Gotcha. And I'm in agreement with you, right? And I think when we did last night's show, it was very apparent that the people that made some comments were in that tune too. And I think you made an important thing when you just said something. There are more people involved in this than the defendant. Absolutely. And I think one of the folks last night made that same exact point, that there's more involved than just the defendant side of the story. And if we don't look at every angle of it and all of it, then that's what we have to look at. Justice being served is not just what happens to the defendant, right? It's also the victim. And I think, just me personally, just thinking about it, judges, I've watched stuff, and I've actually had family members go through the court system. A lot of times victims, I think, sometimes feel like they're left out of the equation. Have you experienced that, sitting on the bench and actually as an attorney and, being in the legal profession for years? What's your thought about, victims' rights?
Yeah, I agree with you, Larry. As a matter of fact, even during this campaign, I've been contacted by some individuals that have gone through the Superior Court and felt that they were not properly considered in decisions that were made. And orders that were issued. And I think that sets a bad precedence for Rockdale County when victims walk away feeling like they've been victimized even more.
Yeah, and that I think that's the concern of citizens. I mean, that's the concern of people who've gone through the judicial process, is that they hear this emphasis on the defendants and the criminal all the time, and we don't hear about the victim, right? And I think that's a concern, right? Yeah, we want to rehabilitate those who have committed crimes, but we also have to remember the crime was committed against someone,
Yes,
right? And then there's where I think sometimes the focus is lost, and I think the people feel, that especially victims, that they're not seen during the process, and I think that's why it's important to have someone, you know, to look at both sides. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So I mean, and apparently the way it sounds to me that you want to be that judge that actually does a 360 view of the process.
absolutely. Even when it comes to accountability courts, I believe that we shouldn't stop with simply addressing the defendant, but we should also look at the effect of the defendant's uh, habits and addictions on the families and the wives and the husbands and the children, and see what we can do to work with them through some sort of counseling as well, to help them understand not only the addiction, but how they can potentially help this individual to overcome that issue that they have.
Judge, when I ran for office a couple of years, 2 years ago, and won, part of my platform was there were specific changes that I wanted to make, right? I didn't pretend that I was running for a seat. I was running for a seat, but also I knew that these changes could only occur if I sat in that seat, because the individual who possessed that seat was not going to attempt to make changes. So you similar are running against an incumbent, and apparently for you to run, you see changes that need to be made that only will be made if you take that seat. Could you
Yeah.
tell us what some of these changes are that you think need to be made that will only happen if you hold that seat?
Well, I believe that, again, I've been contacted by individuals who have had experiences in that particular Superior Courtroom, and many of them have issues with not being, their case not being treated with the judicial temperance or the patience that's necessary in order to allow them to present their cases properly. Not allowing them to present the facts, not allowing them to present the evidence. And these statements have not just come from defendants, they've also come from attorneys and even some court personnel. Now, these individuals that are court personnel, of course, they're not going to speak out because they are concerned about retaliation or loss of their employment. But the attorneys, several of them have said to me that they don't even practice in Rockdale anymore in Superior Court because they just simply don't know what they're going to get from one day to the next. And so rather than disappoint their clients with the outcome, they just choose not to practice out here at all. And so that's one thing. I believe again that we should educate our community more about the processes and procedures of the court. And so I am in favor of town hall meetings where we can inform our community about the processes and procedures of the court, so that when they come to court, they know what to expect or have an idea of what to expect, and they come prepared. And now you're not continuing cases or rescheduling cases over and over, trying to give that individual who is representing themselves an opportunity to get their case organized and to present it. And so I believe through these town hall meetings, we can give individuals general information on processes and procedures, And again, when they come to court, they'll be prepared to present their cases. And so those are just two of the things that I would like to see. But I also believe that given the fact that we're going into a new courthouse, and I expect the technology to be upgraded and the systems to be more modern, that we can operate more efficiently and proficiently than what we have been.
I had heard, Judge, that the clerk of court's office is still going to be in the old building and not move to the new building. So, if that would be true, then what are, I mean, have you heard, are they going to get an update, or how does that work?
I'm not sure about the location since I have not been in the loop with a lot of this planning, but I would imagine that if the systems in the newer portion of the courthouse are being updated, that will also carry over to the clerk's office, since all of these entities would have to communicate with each other in order to make the court system operate efficiently.
Gotcha. And then that's just something that I guess it's a wait and see thing as to when they open up, excuse me, one thing and then the other and such. And from what I was told, once they open up the new building is complete, then I think they'll shift some things from the old building to the new building so they can start rehabbing the old building. That's what I was, told, that to be able to do anything to the old building, you have to have space and this and that. And then I think, between the back and forth, it might be another little bit of time before actually everything is settled and everything is in the place it needs to be.
Yes.
With that. So, so that'll be interesting. It'll still be, a lot of moving parts until everything is done here in the next little bit. So from what I heard, I guess the admin building is supposed to be complete by close to the first of this year. And then by next summer, the courthouse is supposed to be complete.
Yeah, I was just told today, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I was just told today that they're pushing to actually start a move in to some phases in November of this year.
I had thought that was the admin building and that the other one was a little bit behind. So that's interesting. So you think they might be trying to push up the timeline?
That is what I was told earlier today. Yes.
Now, well, it would not surprise me that they're trying to do that. You know what I mean? With the chaos that project is causing in the Old Town area. It is a lot of chaos up there with that construction project going on. So I think everybody wants to see that come to a conclusion as soon as possible.
Yes, I agree.
With that, you know what I mean? So I think so. I talk to people who try to go to work and they have to leave an hour early to find a parking spot.
Yes.
So especially on days that they're a court, right?
That is correct.
So
that's my understanding. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's my understanding too. So Judge, I mean, so you Clayton wanted to know, is jail court moving or expanding? Clayton, I could not answer that question, and I don't think the judge can either, because where he just stated he was out of the loop as far as that goes with what's going on with that. And I'll be honest with you, I'll bet they really honestly couldn't answer that question to you right now because of the way things are moving. I don't believe they can answer that question.
Yes.
I don't. I think if they did, it would be a best guess.
I agree.
With the way things are moving there right now. So Judge, so you've talked about the things that you'd like to do if you're elected and such. Well, and I still think we've had some people on here that have seen you before and such, but there are people who don't know about you, right? And they don't know, well, why is this guy really qualified to be a judge, right? So why don't you go ahead and tell the folks a little bit about your background and what makes you qualified to serve as the Rockdale County Superior Court judge? Because first you have to have certain qualifications to be able to run, but you can possess those qualifications and still not be qualified, right?
That
So,
is-
so why don't you go ahead and let everybody know what your qualifications are and what uniquely makes you the right person for the position?
All right. I'm going to give just a quick little resume here. I was admitted to the bar in 1996. I practiced law for 30 years. I was in private practice for 20 years. 17 of those years, I operated my own law practice, and I practiced in the local, state, and federal courts. I even argued a case before the United States Court of Appeals in the 11th Circuit, and was able to gain a reversal of a summary judgment that was rendered by a lower court. I ran for probate judge in 2016, was admitted to or sworn in to take over the bench in January of 2017. I served as a probate judge here in Rockdale County from 2017 until 2021, when I was appointed by the governor to state court and elevated to chief state court judge. I served in state court from 2021 until 2024, when I resigned to run for this position previously, and I wasn't successful. Since 2024, I have served as ProHack State Court Judge and Probate Judge in DeKalb County, and I have also served as the Municipal Court Judge in the city of Lithonia. Now, many people ask, how am I able to serve in another county when I live in Rockdale? You can be appointed as a ProHack judge in any jurisdiction if you have the necessary qualifications, but you can only be elected as a judge in the county, your county of residence. And so that explains why I'm able to serve in DeKalb. I have been in the same state courtroom in DeKalb since February of 2025, and I currently still serve in that courtroom. Unfortunately, the judge that I've been sitting for passed away, and I was asked to commit to that courtroom until an appointment was made to replace him. And so I'm currently still serving there. In addition to my judicial background and my legal background, I served in law enforcement for approximately 10 years prior to attending law school. And I've served in every position in law enforcement, from a corrections officer to a school resource officer to a street officer to a drug agent to a probate, a juvenile probation officer, and a classroom instructor. And so I understand people, I understand the legal aspects of a case from the investigation stage or the arrest stage all the way through the judicial stage, based on my sundry of experience. And so I believe that I am qualified to serve as the Superior Court judge, because as state court judge, um, the same qualifications for civil cases. You can file in civil or Superior Court. A lot of people file in state court because the cases move faster, and they're not they don't take a backseat to criminal and domestic cases. And so many people file their civil suits in state court rather than Superior Court. In regards to the criminal aspect of the cases or the charges, the Superior Court handles felonies, while the state court handles misdemeanors. However, the only real difference there, the trials are the same, the requirements for establishing the case are the same. The only difference in the cases is that the felonies are more serious, therefore they garner longer and more serious sentences. But if I were to preside over a trial in state court or a trial in Superior Court, the process and procedure would be the same.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, and I think Corliss had asked a question. She wanted to, if she wanted to know about if you were elected and you're serving in that state court in DeKalb, what would happen if you get elected, of course, you wouldn't take office till January. So they
Correct.
would appoint someone else, right? And only a permanent appointment can be made to that position with someone who lives in that judicial district. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
So you have not, have you asked for a permanent appointment to that position, Judge?
The judge who passed away, Judge Ronald Ramsey Sr., in his he when he realized that he wasn't going to get well, he submitted a letter of retirement. That was in September of 2025. We at work did not know that he was even going to do that. But in his retirement letter, he asked the governor as a last favor to him to appoint me to replace him, given the fact that I had done a good job in handling his courtroom without any interruptions or what have you. And so once I found out that he had submitted that letter to the governor with that request, many of the other judges and court personnel over there came to me and said, "Why don't you apply? Why don't you apply? Why don't you apply?" And so I did. I did apply, but was not selected for the short list, as they say. But it never affected my residency here in Rockdale.
Gotcha. So that answers that question. So and then Corliss also asked if you could discuss the Pearl program.
The Pearl program is something that I'm very proud of. While serving as probate judge, in my review of annual returns and that have to be filed by conservators and guardians, I realized that there was a lot of things that just didn't make sense. When you have an individual who is bedridden, cannot get out of bed, needs constant care, but on the return, because this individual is trying to balance out the sheet in regards to their finances, you see hotel rooms that have been rented for 2 or 3 days in Vegas and places of this nature, or you see sneakers or tennis shoes that's been purchased that are $300 or $400. You know that this individual, that cost does not relate to them. And so when I started seeing things of that nature, I realized that in many situations, the caretakers, who in many cases were family members, were simply taking advantage of these elderly individuals and using their funds and their assets for their personal use. When I started to see this and look closer at it, I realized that elders were really being taken advantage of, both financially and in some cases physically. And so I started to develop the Pearl program. Pearl stands for Protecting Our Elderly and At Risk with Resources for Better Living. And the program is designed to eradicate elder abuse here in Rockdale County. While the state has programs that, they are supposed to investigate and do the things that they do, we all realize that resources for the state is always scarce. And so I wanted something here in Rockdale County where we had our own investigators to investigate these cases, and we could deal with them a lot more expeditiously than the state would deal with them. And so in 2017, I started this program. In 2019, we received a federal grant of $350,000 to help kickstart this program. It was an introductory grant. And through that grant, we were able to hire a full-time person to manage in that program. She's still in place today, Ms. Bernadette Snyder. We also established a 1-800 number where even if you suspected that an elderly person or incapacitated person was being mistreated, you could call anonymously and report this, and then we could start our investigation. These investigations are very tedious and in many cases very lengthy, because we would subpoena bank records, we would go through bank statements, we would go, if someone is alleging physical abuse, we would have our investigators to go out and investigate these matters. And we have been successful in recovering funds for these individuals that had been fraudulently taken. We've been successful in removing individuals from homes and facilities where they've been abused. And it's my understanding that we've even had been able to close down and take into custody individuals who are operating illegal rooming or boarding houses for these seniors that are taking advantage of them and their funds.
So yeah, I mean, and that program's a great program. I've actually had referred some individuals to call that program before, and I think you might recall I'd reached out to you in the past, and you had gave me the investigator's number, and I'd had some individuals reached out in the past because it is a great resource. Also, Judge, I believe you established a scholarship in Rockdale County. Would you talk to us a little bit about that? And it means a whole lot to you, I know.
Absolutely. My mother, who I love dearly, she passed away in 2022. And in 2023, I established a scholarship in her memory. And since establishing that scholarship, I have awarded 5 scholarships to graduating seniors here in Rockdale County. I think the majority of them, through no planning or anything, were Heritage High School graduates, and then I believe one was a Rockdale County graduate.
Corliss had a question, and I think she said, "Is the Pearl for bedridden senior that has to be taken to the ambulance to the doctor?" So it wouldn't Pearl be any senior?
It depends on if it involves abuse. That's our primary focus. But I can give Ms. Snyder her props. She is typically, even if it's something that Pearl is not handled, she can make that connection for the individual to help them with the service that they're in need of.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it's great for somebody to know that referral point, right? So even though we don't handle it, but this is who you would call to handle that. And that's a great resource when you have people that are aware of the system and other programs that they can be referred to.
That is
so it's not abuse, no.
Mm.
So the Pearl program only deals with elder abuse. Would that be correct?
Elder abuse and abuse of incapacitated adults, whether it be mental or physical incapacitation. But again, the Pearl program has served as a conduit to connect individuals with other agencies that can provide the services that they're looking for.
Gotcha. And then that's important to know that, that this service can connect you to the other service.
Yes.
So he had to call the fire department to get him off the floor 172 times.
Yes. I would suggest that family members or someone close to him needs to step in and see what they can do about having some authority to address his issues.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a difficult situation. So Judge, what else would you like to discuss?
I'd just like to say that it was said in a previous interview that Superior Courts handle probate appeals from probate court, and since 2023, that's no longer the case. In 2023, when the population in Rockdale County exceeded 90,000, the probate court became what's called an Article 6 court. And the Article 6 court means that it has concurrent jurisdiction with the Superior Court on many issues. And so once the probate court becomes an Article 6 court, then any appeals from probate court actually goes to the Court of Appeals, not to the Superior Court. So I just wanted to clear that up. But I believe we've covered what I would like to cover, Larry. If any other questions that you have, I'm here to answer them.
No, I think we did. I think we covered some things that weren't covered last show, and we answered some things that people throwed out there. We didn't we didn't run from nothing and hide from nothing. We
Absolutely.
what
That's
was
not
what was asked, we answered.
absolutely.
So I think that this rests with the voters now, Judge.
Yes.
You know, I and Carolina Robinson said that I appreciate this platform. Thank you for connecting a community to the better informed of this life. So, you know, and I do too. I appreciate the judge doing that. So, you know, you know, I think you did a good job answering all the questions this evening, Judge Cuthbert. And when people come on the show and they do this hit stuff like this, we don't appreciate it. When your candidate was on here, Miss Marchman, she was treated respectful, and I allowed no one in the audience to do the same thing. So I would ask you, Miss Marchman, to please be respectful when we do these interviews, and don't come on here and try to be a hit piece or a hit person. It does not look good on you or your candidate. And that's what I have to say for that matter. So, Judge, what we're going to do this evening is we're going to call it an evening. And if you would like to just do one last little spiel, you can do that and do that. Miss Marchman, please do not insult my intelligence with that. I have seen you at events. For you to say that, it makes you reflect badly on your candidate. And I know your candidate doesn't like that. Your candidate is a person with class. So would you please act like a person with class also? Thank you. And Judge, would you go ahead and close out?
Thank you, Larry. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to come back on the show and clarify some things. I am Clarence Cuthbert Jr., candidate for Superior Court Judge. I am running on experience, judicial temperance, and integrity. I have 30 years experience practicing law, 10 years in the judiciary, and I have the judicial temperance or the patience to listen to the facts, listen to the evidence, give individuals a fair opportunity to present their case, and then make a decision that's consistent with the rule of law. I believe that I am the qualified candidate to serve as your Superior Court judge. I have experience from the law enforcement perspective as well as from the legal perspective. I have compassion for the seniors, the veterans, and the youth in our community, and I have proven so by my actions and commitment to this community. If you elect me, I am ready to preside and prepared to preside and ready to serve. And I can begin on day one after being sworn in to assume my duties to operate the Superior Court without any interruption or anything of that nature. If you all select me, you will get the same thing you had with the probate judge and your state court judge, a judge who's committed to the rule of law, a judge who's committed to this community, not just around election time, but always, and a judge who does what he says and who you can take at his word. If you speak with anyone who's come before me at any level of the court, they will tell you that I am a fair judge. And I would appreciate your vote. Tomorrow is your opportunity. We do not go because we are a nonpartisan race. We do not go to November. Tomorrow is it. And so I need your vote tomorrow. Let's make change in Rockdale County. And I appreciate your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge, for coming on. And just so you guys know, there are only two people running. Somebody's going to get 50 plus one. Somebody's going to win tomorrow. And your votes make that happen. So get out and support your candidate of choice tomorrow on election day. And people were thanking us for the show, and they felt it was informative, and it was. And I do think that the Judge Cuthbert was able to clarify some things tonight, and that was very interesting. So, Catherine, thank you too. Corliss, thank you. So, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. This is our last election show of the season, and I'm ready for the election shows to be over myself. So, thank you, guys. And Judge, if you'll hold on, we'll click off of here and let everybody else get about their Monday evening, and I will see you guys this coming Sunday on another normal